Hello everyone, the composer I picked for the report is called Astor Piazzolla, and I selected his piece called Libertango. I decided to choose him because I consider that it's very interesting the way he combines classical music with jazz, with Argentina tango, or Argentine's tango, and this creates a new style that I think it's very interesting and exciting. Astor was born in Mar de la Plata, Argentina in 1921. Later on, his family moved to New York, where he was introduced to jazz, classical music, and other musical traditions. Later on, he moved back to Argentina, where he started to, where he continued to study music. And later on, he moved to Paris and he studied with Nadia Boulanger. She she recognized that one of his greatest strengths in music and at composing was that he didn't try to sound like European composers. He tried to embrace Argentina's music, and tried to create his own style. And later on, he combined the jazz with classical music and the Argentina tango. This created the Nuevo Tango, or New Tango in English. Instead of only writing tango for dancing, he decided to write tango for concerts. No, he accomplished this by combining the jazz and classical music with the Argentina tango. At first, many people criticized him. They said he's changing a lot on something very traditional and classical in Argentina, like the tango, and he's making something new, and people didn't like that. But as time went by, people started appreciating his talent, and later on, he became one of the most influential composers of the 20th century. The piece I listened to and I picked is called Libertango, and it was composed in 1974. I like that this title combines the word liberty and tango, which represents a lot of Piazzolla's identity. The way he had the liberty to modify Argentina's tango and create a brand new style. I think it's something very interesting and something really emotional, really exciting. I mean, the performance I watched is a live orchestral performance with a solo bandoneon, and I think watching it live makes a big difference compared to just listening to an audio recording. At the beginning of the performance, the bandoneon immediately introduces the main melody. Even before the entire orchestra joins, you can already recognize its unique sound. I had heard of bandoneon before, but I never really listened it or heard it as carefully or the way it was in this play. It has a warm and expressive sound that it almost feels like if somebody is singing without words. It sounds kind of weird, but it does feel like that. And later on, more instruments enter, the string instruments, and they support the melody with repeated rhythms and repeated rhythmic patterns. The violins add excitement, while the cello and bass provide a strong foundation underneath. The piano also contributes to the rhythm without taking too much attention from the actual melody. One thing I noticed while watching the musicians is how connected everyone seems. The conductor guides the orchestra, but the players, they look at each other like if it was a conversation between the orchestra instead of just instruments playing together. And around the middle of the performance, the music becomes much more intense. The orchestra gradually increases its volume, creating a dramatic build-up before returning to the main theme. I thought this was one of the most exciting parts because it creates tension and keeps the audience engaged. The tempo remains fairly fast during almost the entire piece. That steady pulse gives the music constant energy and makes it impossible for the the audience to lose interest. Even though the rhythm stays constant, it never feels repetitive because Piazzolla changed the dynamics so often. The dynamics was one of my favorite musical elements in this piece. Sometimes only a few instruments are playing quietly, allowing the bandoneon to stand out, then suddenly the entire orchestra joins together with much greater intensity. These changes between soft and loud sections create excitement, and it makes the melody more powerful. It gives it a more powerful essence. And the texture, it's mostly homophonic because the bandoneon clearly carries the melody while the orchestra accompanies it. However, different sections of the orchestra occasionally respond to one another. This adds a variety without making the music difficult to follow. Another music element I really appreciate was the timbre. Every instrument has its own and unique sound, but the combination of the bandoneon with the string section creates a something I've never heard before. No, it sounds emotional, dramatic, and even nostalgic. Watching the performance also helped me appreciate how expressive musicians are. Even though there are no lyrics, you can clearly feel the emotion, no, through their playing, their facial expressions, and their body language. The audience also seemed very engaged through the performance, which shows how powerful Piazzolla's music can be. Near the end of the performance, the orchestra builds energy once again before finishing it with a strong and confident ending. Like the melody never loses track. No, it always stays strong throughout the whole. While the whole orchestra is playing, it's always strong. I thought it was a perfect conclusion because it leaves like the audience with the same excitement that it had throughout the whole piece. And during my research, I learned that Piazzolla was criticized for changing the traditional tango, which is what I said earlier. But I also think that's interesting because it shows us that innovating, although it may not be accepted at first, if it's good enough and it really brings something different and special, people will end up liking it. And that also innovation may also take some time to be accepted, but as I said, if it's good enough and people like it, it will be accepted. Overall, I think I really enjoyed learning about Astor. Before the assignment, I didn't know anything about him, no. But now I think it's something really interesting. I think he had a really interesting life, really interesting point of view of music. And if I wanted to introduce someone to his music, I think I would definitely pick this piece. It really shows his essence, even with the name of the song. As I said, Libertango, Liberty Tango, shows how he changed Argentina's tango and made something special with it. And that's all I gotta say. Thank you.